I think what Karen's saying is I'm an odd duck, but that's okay. Okay. I'm Karen Franco from UW Colleges, and I apologize for the recycled nature of my presentation. My colleague Pat Fellows is in the hospital this week recovering from surgery, and this is her presentation from this fall at D2L Fusion, this past summer, excuse me, at D2L Fusion. But nothing has really changed, so it should still be applicable. And we really started, I'm dealing with the faculty aspect of using ePortfolio. So far, everybody's focused on the students. But we had a desire out of our faculty senate to have promotion, tenure, and review, those huge dossiers and all that paper, that's thus going green in Wisconsin, save paper. How can we do a paperless promotion, tenure, and review process, or almost paperless? And so that was our motivation. And it took a while to get there, but when the D2L ePortfolio tool came up, we saw this as an opportunity to try to go paperless. And so this is a result of our experiences, both good and bad. 13 campuses across the state, the 2-year campuses. We had 7 departments participating from our campuses. We didn't want to start out with all the departments. Faculty Senate conceived the idea back in 2003, and we started it in 2009. The Faculty Senate supported it, and then we reviewed the project at the end of this past year. So we've had it for 1 academic year already. This was just a diagram that we gave to show the deadlines for the different third-year people versus tenured people and when they had to have things in and whatnot. So we gave them a timeline off the bat so they knew, and maybe to avoid some panic a little bit if they knew how it was going to proceed. We had 51 faculty presenting out of the 7 departments, not presenting, but participating. And then we had also reviewers, people reviewing their dossiers, and department chairs. And then we had campus reviewers as well as department reviewers. We also had deans, and the provost had to have access too. So we had a lot of people needing to take a look at this, and we had to fiddle around with roles a lot in D2L to get this to even work very well. So change was a thundercloud up in the corner there. Change was not easy for everybody to accept this new way. People embraced the general idea of having no paper. They liked that, but then the implementation was kind of sticky. We did have a training site set up, an ePortfolio demonstration site. My colleague Pat Fellows put her dossier up there from when she received tenure, and so she had that up as an example. And then we had training videos and such available to people to look at. Only problem is a lot of them didn't look at the training videos, so that was an issue. And then they would scream they didn't know what to do, and so we provided lots of information, lots of learn-as-you-go types of things, and we had to make a lot of adjustments on the way because of the way D2L is structured in the sharing especially. And we had some people accidentally share their dossiers with everybody, which we learned how to work around that and create special roles and such, but it was a little stressful. But we were told that all the training had to be online. We couldn't do any training on a webcast or whatnot because of costs in all the campuses. So we sent information through emails, but a lot of people didn't read their emails, and they didn't watch the videos. A lot of you aren't surprised, I know. And many of the department chairs didn't forward the information on to the people that needed the information on how to look at dossiers. And many faculty waited until the last minute to create their ePortfolios. In fact, the last 2 days, a few of them. So, yes, there was stress all around that way. So Pat got a lot of $11 phone calls. Luckily, they didn't have my cell phone number. Too bad, but so Pat got some panic phone calls on Saturday night before the Monday that they were all due. So such are the pains of being in a pilot program. But we plan to have the sharing. What we had to do was the sharing didn't work very well within D2L, so we had to have them use drop boxes. We set up special drop boxes, and then that avoided the security issues of other people being able to see their stuff. So we had to end up creating 13 individual campus sites, and 7 department ePortfolio sites, and then they shared their dossiers that way, their presentations actually. And so that meant creating a lot of Dropbox folders. So 51 faculty, and this was just a sample dossier. You've seen a lot of them today, and that's what we provided for them so they could see how it worked. And what the 6th-year one, sample one might look like, their assessment activities. People, we invited comments then at the end of this past, in May, how did it go for you? What did you think? And we had a lot of red thumbs down in a lot of areas because it was a pilot. They didn't necessarily find it easy to work with ePortfolio for doing this. I think they were already stressed a little bit, and it was a problem. They liked saving the paper. They wanted to be able to create a single PDF. They wanted everything all in one file. They didn't like clicking all the different pages and whatnot. That was a big thumbs down. They thought the timeline some of them thought the timeline was a little short. On a scale of 1 to 5, you can see we got some kind of low scores on the artifacts and the ease of using those with faculty. With presentations, a little higher score with creating the presentations, but still not as good as we would have hoped. They thought that the overall ability, they felt the dossier with ePortfolio was 2.57. They thought that some of them liked it pretty well. They liked much more than paper copies and liked the organizational aspects of it, but they leaned heavily on Pat and me too in answering all their questions. And they did have a lot of questions. And they thought it was just difficult if they were in their 6th year of doing it too. So it's interesting to have heard a lot of you say how students used it, how it's worked pretty easily with students, because that wasn't our experience with faculty for a large part. So I'm not quite sure why the disparity, other than digital natives and digital immigrants or all that kind of stuff, to some regard, I don't know. But we have to do some thinking about it. We have a lot of statistics here, and I apologize for them, but they just had, I guess our biggest things were, some of them liked it. They didn't like having to provide a paper copy for the provost to look at because he needed paper copies. So we still had to do for 3rd and 6th year. Too many clicks. The reviewers had trouble finding the dossiers, and they still wanted that single PDF for ease of just scrolling right through one document. So, and from Pat's perspective, and there's Pat, we're thinking of you, Pat. There were issues with sharing, as I mentioned. The quality of the dossiers may not have been quite as good because they had to learn ePortfolio as well as trying to compile their content, and they did a lot of last-minute work, didn't read the instructions. We need more training. The campus staff really weren't involved very much with the training due to our timeline. Bill Boltman was a department chair from the Fox campus. He thought it was unfriendly, was efficient about the paper again, but chaotic because we had to make a lot of changes and had to give them a lot of new instructions and switch gears along the way. And so next we plan to share this data that we've had and work to see we actually have had a meeting already this year online and talked about what we're going to do next. Pat's going to write a white paper on our pilot, but we also have a couple of departments that are interested in joining this existing 7, and all existing 7 departments, to my knowledge, have said yes, they're going to go ahead with it again this year. They still want to give it a try. So it may just be we had first-year growing pains, and we worked through some of those, and hopefully the D2L mini upgrade in October will take care of some of that with ePortfolio, some of the sharing issues. So we're not aware of many other institutions using this, and D2L certainly is kind of using us as an example because not many people have done it for promotion, tenure, and review. So, I don't know. But we're still willing to stick with it because we think there are benefits out there if we get it all figured out right and the tool works for us the way we want it to. So I wish I could give a glowing report, but it was interesting. We learned a lot, and if you have questions, I'd welcome them. Right, and Pat was involved in that. I didn't come on board till 2008, so I'm not sure. I know they looked at some different ones, and nothing satisfied them. I know that. Yeah. Right. We've talked about using SharePoint possibly. We have SharePoint on a lot of our campuses, but permissions with folders and such, I don't know how SharePoint 2010 will be different with that. There need to be some ways to do a Dropbox in there more easily. But I don't know. We're open to ideas, but we're still giving this a try for one more year. We had people all along the spectrum in D2L experience. And I suspect the ones that were a little more positive about ePortfolio, in fact, I know in some cases that's to be true, more experience they had with D2L before this, they were more comfortable with using ePortfolio, not surprisingly, and more positive about it. But it was a pretty steep learning curve for those who'd only put, their syllabus up on D2L before, and that's about all they use D2L for, So, yep, following the tradition.